Hello, my name is Mike. In this tutorial, I'll show you how plan configuration impacts the workforce compensation user experience. I'm setting up a workforce compensation plan for an upcoming compensation cycle. The worksheet might look like it's a pure data entry tool, but I know that it's not. Decisions I make during setup will impact the worksheet response time while managers are making allocations. Tabbing, scrolling, and real-time values calculations will impact the worksheet performance. While I can't avoid using real-time value calculations completely, I need to make sure I'm using them effectively. Real-time calculations are done when the change worksheet data trigger is used in both alerts and dynamic calculations. The more of either of those, or the more conditions within a dynamic calculation, the longer the worksheet can take to respond. Every time a manager tabs out of a field, each condition in each item with that trigger enabled is evaluated. For example, if I have 4 columns with a dynamic calculation with 5 conditions each, that's 20 conditions that are being evaluated, regardless of whether or not the column being populated has a dynamic column configured for it. To lessen the impact, I'm only going to configure dynamic columns where I really need to test worksheet performance, then add additional dynamic columns as needed. Something else I want to think about is whether I need to calculate values in columns for administrators to view and administer workers, or do I only need to show values for managers? If I need to calculate values in columns for administrators, I should consider a separate plan to calculate those values. Then I can use the cross-referencing feature to supply the value to the manager's worksheet. This will lessen the number of dynamic columns being processed during batch processing and worksheet data changes. The overall number of columns enabled in the worksheet can also impact performance. I'll make sure all the personal and employment columns in the compensation tab type are disabled. I've enabled a detail table only tab type that will show all the personal and employment information for a worker. This will allow managers to access the information within the plan and without having to navigate to HR. And fewer columns in the allocation sheet means less scrolling and better performance. Once I've completed this setup and before I start my plan, I can validate to make sure the evaluation order is correct for any dynamic columns. Improperly sequenced dynamic columns can have unexpected results, cause confusion for managers, and impact worksheet performance. As I test my worksheet performance, I can add or remove dynamic calculations and/or alerts to make sure the plan is working at peak performance. The application is very flexible and can accommodate a wide variety of requirements. However, all of these accommodations can make it difficult for users due to the slow performance. Some of the things I want to keep in mind when going through the setup process are using default methods like external data to refrain from doing calculations in fast formula. While this won't improve worksheet performance, it will improve performance in the batch processes. Using an administrative plan for calculations. I can use a second plan to do all the calculations and return the result of the plan for managers using the cross-referencing defaulting method. Limiting the number of dynamic calculations and alerts that use the change worksheet data trigger, as this is a major impact on worksheet performance. Enabling detail tables so that managers can access information within the plan without navigating to HR or scrolling through the worksheet to find the information they're looking for. Validating the plan once setup is complete to make sure any dynamic columns I do configure have the evaluation orders properly sequenced. Testing performance in our production environment by starting the plan, setting the status to administrative, and checking the worksheet performance. This concludes how plan configuration impacts experience. You can find more information and learning resources in your Oracle Help application, the Oracle Learning Library, and at Oracle University. Thank you.